I'm going to talk today. We've been talking about qualification, sales qualification. I'm going to say something right now that seems maybe a bit confusing, maybe even a little simple, but it really does explain a lot about pipeline problems. A discovery call can feel great and still be completely useless. Now imagine having the conversation. The prospect is friendly. The conversation is flowing. Everybody really seems to be getting along and like each other. And your salesperson leaves that meeting thinking, man, that really went well. That was good. And then nothing happens. The deal stalls. The prospect disappears and starts to ghost your sales rep. Or price becomes the whole conversation. And the CEO sitting there staring at a pipeline that's full, wondering, why doesn't revenue show up? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Sales qualification criteria and why, discovery that feels like small talk just kills deals. If you're a CEO, a business owner, small and mid-sized business, this is gonna hit home because it's one of those problems you don't always see until it's too late. You see all kinds of activity, you see meetings happening, you see proposals going out, you see opportunities moving through stages in your CRM, and it looks a whole lot like progress. Makes you feel good. But then the month closes low. Revenue's light. And nobody can clearly explain why. The sales team is still really optimistic and hyped up on hopium. They still say we've got a lot in the pipeline. And you're thinking, okay, that's true. But where is the money? A lot of that gap comes down to sales qualification criteria that are not being met. And that almost always traces back to the very beginning of the sales process, and that's in discovery. Because discoveries is not just a warm conversation. Discovery is where your team earns the right to call a deal qualified in your pipeline. Now, let me define sales qualification criteria in just simple layman's terms. Sales qualification criteria are the proof points that tell you an opportunity is real. It's not a feeling. It's not a vibe. It's not that they seem really interested. It's actual proof. And at a minimum, sales qualification criteria should include these 5 things. 1, a specific problem that the buyer agrees is worth solving. 2, impact. What that problem is actually costing them. What risk does it put them in? 3, a timeline of consequences, meaning a real why now? Why are they ready to finally make a move? 4, what's the decision process? Who decides? How do they decide? What criteria are they going to use? And finally, a mutually agreed upon next step. Ideally, and this is a non-negotiable for me, a scheduled meeting while you are there during the discovery call. If your team cannot clearly answer those 5 things, you do not have a qualified opportunity. You might have interest, but interest doesn't turn into revenue. Now, here's what small talk discovery might look like. It's the kind of call where the rep asks surface level questions. The prospect just gives back surface level answers. And both sides they stay in the safe zone. Neither side dives down deep into any one topic. The rep will ask things like, well, tell me about your company and what are you looking for? What's your timeline? And the prospect will say things like, well, we're exploring options. We're just gathering information and we'd like to do something soon. But all of those are just surface level questions and answers. And then the rep does something that feels natural. They start explaining your company. They start pitching capabilities. They start talking about features of your product or your service. They might even send out a proposal because the prospect says, well, send me something. And everyone leaves the call with a smile. But nothing's real. Nothing real was uncovered. There was no specificity, no consequence, no clarity on a decision process. There just isn't any proof that this opportunity is real. That is a small talk discovery call. It feels really good, but it produces bad deals. Now, friendly is great. Everybody likes to have good, friendly conversations. But as salespeople and as your salespeople, they need to be qualifying. Friendly just is not the same as qualified. A prospect can be really friendly and completely uncommitted at the same time. They can be really polite and still never buy. They can enjoy talking to you and still have no urgency, no authority, and no intention of making any type of decision. And when your reps treat friendly as forward motion, your pipeline inflates, deals go in. This is how a CEO ends up with a CRM that's full of deals that are emotionally counted, but not actually real. That's what creates, forecasting whiplash, where you think there's dollars coming in and at the end of the month, they don't materialize. The real job of discovery is to create some leverage. It's not just gathering information. The real job of discovery is getting that leverage in the deal. And what leverage means is you understand what matters, why it matters, what happens if it doesn't change, and how the decision is going to ultimately be made. When you have all of that, you can guide next steps without being pushy because you're operating in reality. You can say, based on what you just told me, here's what makes sense next. And it lands. When you don't have that, you're just following up. And following up is what salespeople do when they have no leverage in a deal or an opportunity. That's why discovery matters so much to sales qualification criteria. It's where leverage is created. Now, what kind of questions would turn discovery into true qualification? Well, I'm going to give you a handful of those that I use constantly in my own business and with sales teams that I work with. And you'll notice these questions do one thing. They force clarity. So here we go. All right. So what's driving you to look right now? This is your why now question. And if the answer is vague, the timeline's going to be just fantasy. It isn't going to be real. What happens if you don't fix this in the next, say, 60 or 90 days? This is the consequence question, and it creates urgency without pressure. But it makes the buyer aware, makes it real, the consequence that could occur. Next question. What have you tried already? And why didn't it work? And what this helps us do is reveal the real obstacle and some of the emotional history of the problem. Another one, who besides you will weigh in on this decision? And this pulls in the other stakeholders that are a part of this opportunity. Next, how will you evaluate options? And what matters most to you? Now, this surfaces the decision criteria on their side, which is critical for you to be able to communicate your differentiation to that client. When you say soon, this is the next question, what does that mean on a calendar? And this helps you turn a vague timeline into some real understanding of time. What would make this a no, even if you love us, you like us? And this is a powerful one because this helps surface hidden objections that could be lurking below the surface. And the big one, if we agreed this is a fit, what are the next steps, and can we get that on the calendar now? This separates the curious that are just having the conversation with you from the ones that are actually committed to solving their problem and implementing the differentiation that you have shown them. If your team's not asking questions like these, they are not meeting sales qualification criteria. They're just having really pleasant conversations, which might be really enjoyable and fun, but they're not getting to the heart of it. Now, the title talks about price objections. Now, let's connect everything together here. If discovery is really shallow, the value, your differentiation becomes very generic. They don't understand what it is that you can do for them. And when value becomes generic, you are now just a commodity. And if you get lumped in as a commodity, you will hear, you're too expensive. And you will feel the pressure to then have to discount. Price becomes the objection when the buyer doesn't have a clear business case in their head. And the business case is built in discovery. In other words, you don't handle price objections at the end. You prevent them at the beginning by doing discovery that creates specificity and urgency. So what's a practical fix here? Well, here's a standard that changes behavior pretty quickly. Now listen, do not advance the deal until discovery produces proof. Let me say it one more time. Do not advance the deal until discovery produces proof. Now, what does that mean? Well, before a deal moves forward into proposal or late stages in your pipeline or anything you plan to forecast, your rep should be able to document in plain English the answer to these 5 questions. What's the problem we are solving? What's the impact to the client? Why now? Who's going to decide and how? What is the next step? And when is it scheduled? If they can't answer those, the opportunity stays in early stage, or it just gets disqualified and removed from the pipeline. And the salesperson can then focus on another opportunity that might actually be real. Now, when you start to do things like this, absolutely your pipeline is going to shrink, and that's going to make you feel really, really nervous. But it is a good thing because now the pipeline is truthful. It's showing you what reality actually is. All right. As a CEO, here's kind of a move that you could make that's going to help you coach towards specificity, easy for you to say, specificity with your salespeople. Stop accepting vague language. When someone says they're interested, you ask, interested in what? And why does it matter to them now? When someone says they want a proposal, you ask, what decision will the proposal support? And when will it get reviewed? When someone says they're going to think about it, you ask them, what are they deciding? And who's involved in that decision? Those questions don't create pressure so much as they help to create clarity. And clarity is what makes sales qualification criteria real. All right. So here's kind of the bottom line. Discovery that feels like small talk kills deals because it produces absolutely no proof. And no proof means your sales qualification criteria aren't met. And when deals advance without proof, pipelines inflate, close rates drop, and forecasting is really just a guessing game. If you want more predictable revenue, tighten discovery. Make it diagnostic. Make it specific. Make it about impact, urgency, and the decision process. And if you want help installing those standards and coaching your team through real deals, that is exactly what we do here at Transformative Sales Systems. We do this through our fractional sales management services, and we would absolutely love to have that conversation and help you work on discovery that really breaks down the sales qualification criteria and get you to a deep understanding of each opportunity that's in your funnel. So this was Anthony Nix, your host and founder of Transformative Sales Systems. And in our next episode, we're going to start talking, we're going to stay on this sales qualification thing, and we're going to talk about why deals stall when nobody owns the process and how to stop living in, let's call it, follow-up land. All right. Until then, I hope you all have a very wonderful day. I appreciate you all for listening to the Selling Point podcast.